Have you ever made a decision that felt completely right only to immediately feel bad about it? What if that feeling isn't a red flag, but a signal asking you to listen? Today, we are unpacking why this is such a common experience for sensitive, intuitive, and neurodivergent women of color. So, let me set the stage and share a little bit about what inspired today's episode. A few weeks ago, I faced a tough decision. I had to move. You see, I live in an area where parking is like winning the lottery. I had been parking at the same spot for years without realizing that this wasn't official anywhere on paper. Suddenly, with the arrival of a new management company, I found myself without a parking space, all because it couldn't be found on the lease. When I realized this, I was furious and frustrated. Moving had been on my mind, but now I had no choice. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. I knew it was time to get the hell out. Very quickly, I started looking for a new place, and next thing you know, I put in my move out notice. Intellectually, I knew that I was making the right decision. However, as soon as I submitted that notice, I instantly felt awful. It was as if I had done something wrong. I was afraid that I had made a mistake, and I started questioning myself. I started asking, did I rush into this? Was I being temperamental? Was I being impulsive, maybe? Shouldn't I feel at ease and calm? Because after all, I did the right thing. This is just one example of the kind of situation that many of us find ourselves in. We make decisions and we suddenly freak out because we genuinely believe that we did something wrong. We start spiraling out of control and stressing ourselves out because we don't understand what's happening. And that is precisely what we are going to be exploring in today's episode. Hi, I'm Renata, a creativity coach supporting neurodivergent and multi-passionate women of color to build a kinder relationship with themselves using expressive art. Here, art isn't about being impressive or productive. It's about slowing down, listening inward, and creating space for clarity and ease. Expressive art works especially well for emotional healing because it doesn't require you to have the right words or use linear thinking. It gives you another way in when traditional approaches feel like too much. This work is shaped by years of creative practice and my own lived experience as a neurodivergent and multi-passionate woman of color. So grab a cozy drink, settle in, and let's explore this together. Let's start off by naming the elephant in the room, which is that we do not trust ourselves to make good decisions. And I just want us to sit with this statement for a moment. We do not trust ourselves to make good decisions. I know that when I sat with this statement myself, I didn't really want to admit it, but I knew it was true. The reality is that many of us are making choices from a place of fear. We don't think that we can choose correctly, and we start second guessing ourselves to the point of overwhelm and relentless self-doubt. But why does this happen? Like many things, this often starts in childhood. If you're anything like me, you may have grown up with parents or caregivers who didn't leave you much room to make your own choices. You either had to over-explain or justify every little thing, or the choice was simply made for you. The message that we received over and over was simple. You can't trust yourself. You can't trust that you know what's best for you. Fast forward to the present moment, and this is how we end up in situations where we have to make choices quickly, only to end up getting stuck in our heads and drowning in self-doubt. You start to tell yourself that you don't know how to make good decisions, but subconsciously, it's not that you don't know how to make good decisions. It's that you're terrified to make mistakes. When we are making decisions from a place of fear, it's no wonder that decisions can feel like life or death. Your body is going to respond to your thoughts. This is why you start breathing fast, you can't focus, or you feel exhausted. Your mind is on overdrive. You are burning all of your fuel just to troubleshoot this one perceived problem. The stakes in our own expectations are so high that it's nearly impossible not to disappoint ourselves or feel like a failure before we even start. Now, another reason why many of us feel bad after making a good decision is that we are secretly afraid of change, even when change is good for us. Let me explain. Humans are wired to seek certainty, safety, and predictability. We spend a lot of time creating a comfort zone where we can feel like we can settle in and relax. Otherwise, we would never be able to focus on anything else other than perpetual survival. And mind you, a lot of us do stay in survival mode for years. So it makes sense that most of us, no matter how awful or uncomfortable we feel, will stay in bad relationships, places, and situations that no longer fit or are aligned with our current season of life, simply out of habit. Unconsciously, we're thinking, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, meaning that often we find it easier to keep dealing with problems and situations that we are familiar with rather than having to venture out into something new. This is why it makes sense that when you finally do decide that it's time to make a change, your mind might be on board, but not your nervous system. You start to tense up, you start to imagine worst case scenarios, you start making excuses as to why things should just stay the same. It's not that you don't think that you deserve better, it's that you are afraid that you have to do something that you haven't done before. Something is asking you to expand your comfort zone. Another really common reason many of us struggle after making a good choice is due to the fear of regret. And when you're highly sensitive, perceptive, and neurodivergent, you are experiencing life differently. Raise your hand if you tend to know things without knowing how. Raise your hand if you can see how situations will play out before they do. Raise your hand if you tend to get insights seemingly out of nowhere. If you raised your hand along any of these questions, chances are that you experience life on a different level, picking up on those things that other people miss, or knowing something is off before you even have words to describe it. This means that you operate on intuition, pattern recognition, and instinct. So, what does this have to do with the fear of regret, you might be asking yourself? Well, keep listening because I assure you this is going to make sense. You see, people like us, people who operate on an intuitive level, aren't impulsive or reckless. In fact, we are quite the opposite. Many of us have been sharpening our intuition for years through quiet observation, reflection, and learning what not to do just by watching how other people move through the world. We know exactly what is good for us or where we need to go simply by tuning in to our inner compass, our intuition. This means that you're likely someone who knows exactly what they want and how to get there. And herein lies the problem. When we live in a world where most people do not work like this, it's easy to gaslight ourselves into thinking that we must be crazy, impulsive, or reckless, when this couldn't be further from the truth. What other people do not understand is that you have been contemplating, thinking, and planning important decisions for weeks, months, and even years. Often never telling anyone about it and just keeping it close to your heart. So when you finally know it's time to take action, to others, it can seem like you are just making this decision out of nowhere. They don't understand how you know what you know. And this is when they'll start projecting their own fears and insecurities onto you. And if you're not self-aware, you might start believing that those fears, insecurities, and anxieties are yours. You might even start worrying that you'll regret your decision later. But the truth is that you have already thought things through extensively. There's nothing left to analyze or question. But under external pressure, it's normal to react by second guessing yourself and beating a dead horse. And we're really only doing this to appease other people to make sure that they are okay. So, if you were able to relate to any of the things that I shared today, I want you to know that you are not broken, you are not flawed, you make sense. And instead, I want to invite you to consider the following. What if that awful feeling that you get after making an important and necessary decision isn't that you made the wrong choice, but a signal that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone? What if instead of listening to external fears and insecurities, you slow down enough to notice what's happening within you? How might that change your relationship to yourself and your own self-trust? That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. If this resonated with you, it would mean a lot if you could share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave a rating. This helps more people find this message. And if you're ready to explore your relationship to self-trust, to start teasing apart what's actually yours from what you have been absorbing from others, I would love to support you. Join me on March 4th for Pause and Release, a live expressive art making workshop. Here's where we are going to gently work through pressure, overwhelm, and self-demand together. All the details are in the show's description. And if you want to go deeper, I think you're really going to enjoy this next episode where we explore what it feels like to be invisible in friendships. I'll see you there.